Gela, please tell us your name.
Gela Ming Songronang.
Jangchuk Nyima.
Jangchuk Nyima.
His Holiness the Dalai Lama asked us to record your experiences so that we can share your memories with many generations of Tibetans, the Chinese, and the rest of the world. Your memories will help us to document the true history, culture, and beliefs of the Tibetan people. Do you give your permission for the Tibet Oral History Project to use this interview?
Gela, Kongso Chogi, Galapeba Nanshi, and Ganzugi, Tarin Galagi, Mitsi Nyamyong. Nguye chungba logyu di tizu chigi yore. Logyu di pimi mirab mangbota ani kya miri mase zambulengi mimangi siyu la shane ane logyu dine pyoge gerab dan rishu nguye kari ime di kento yungure. An taring anzu pyoge ngagyun gerab legul digi taring tiwa tilen che shaba di peju tang choguru wala.
Yes. Okay. Thank you for offering to share your story with us. During this interview, if you wish to take a break or stop at any time, please let me know. If you do not wish to answer a question or talk about something, let me know.
Taring tiwa tilen chebe kablaya gyala ka goye dinde duna karo chisungna digire. Ani yan tiwa khashe la gyala len kyundu meba yina nga len gyagi men sungna digiyore.
If this interview was shown in Tibet or China or anywhere in the world, would this be a problem for you?
Tarin tiwa tilen cheba di nganzugi pyo gyana zamling kawal tembe yenege gyala ya kange yungu yona. There'll be no problem.
We are honored to record your story and appreciate your participation in this project. Okay. Gela, tell us what kind of work did your mother and father do in Tibet?
Gyala pönala shube kableya konglu chunju indu gane pala amagi lega kharichigi yona.
No chungchong de pa damani kakari na ma mai tamdo pa damache tamdo. Tani marani la nornyong jengdo. Ti nornyong den cho. Tani tejila nga lo je ni lo chukjek samari ko te nornyong den cho tejila so.
My parents were separated and I lived with my mother. My mother and I owned some animals which I used to herd when I was about 8 to 11.
What kind of animals were they?
Nor semjen kare kare yore.
Mandu joresa nyungdu jugre deresa yo.
Semjen kare kare re.
Ya.
So they were deer and yaks, and at times, we owned about 6, and at times it increased to 10.
And was the place where you lived, was it a large village, a small one, or a city? What kind of a population?
Genlagi shuksaki lungba jiyorwa, lungba di chembure, chinjure, yan tongsipre kanderes. It was a small village.
A small village. Was there a monastery nearby?
And tongsip chinju digi tile ya gomba jiyorwela. Yes, there was a monastery.
And did you ever go and visit the monastery as a child with your mother?
아니 보고 친지 임백갑래야 다 아말하게 냠돌이야 곰발라 참참 패기여나.
곰발라 참참 된저 된저 더 친이다 더 깎간돌에만 또 곰발 타는 보이는 더 전도 좀 반을 잡지만.
So we used to go to the monastery only during the festivals, like if there was a charm, because it was quite far from the village.
Oh, about how long by walking?
Ta shusa na ne gomba la pewi na ta gomba kyona gyutha ringlu na gyuringlu gorgu na
gomba janin do di nyama tik phat nyama tik chacha.
So if one went walking to the monastery, it took a day's walk to reach it and another day's walk to return.
And what were the financial circumstances of your family? With 6 or 10 animals, what level of economic status was your family?
다 갤라기 나리아 다 셈제 죽네 주파라라 요르왈 주파라 유두간에 다 룽베 나리아 직 미자 추가 탕레기레 딩아 탕라 레기레 껴 탕라 레기레 셈제 주주용에 디 칸데 잡으지라 레기레
다 마당가니 비고나 몽고 니리드 쪼쪼왔던다 이제 말이 다 저메 산단 산저
So if a family of 2 owned about 10 animals, they were not in the poorest of the poor, but somewhere in the middle.
In the middle, okay. And before you turned 11, what was your childhood like? Can you describe what a typical day was like for you?
Gala konglo chunju lo chukji skingon la roa ani mechi khande dawo jore puchinju jimbe kable ya chik nyiri chale na ya khare nang go yore
ngaranka ta nyiri ti norte cho ya rangol di ma to gong man di ya so nyimo kamo rangol di ya man nyama kanga de ngarang le ko jin chonno te du ngarang ma ki ke khala le njari chonno te du ngar po chu chong di chale ko jin.
So every day in the morning I took the animals up to the hills, and every evening I brought them back. That was the daily routine. And once I was back home, my mother would do all the cooking, and I did not have any responsibilities.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And did you have any opportunity to go to school or take lessons in anything?
아니 갤라 롭달라 페야 저보다 딘데 직 정달 지야 딘데 직 교갑다 중요나
그가 또 때니 소만 되게 자막 레버 자마리 때니 보 카톨릭 사자리 순데 던저 롭다운 되나 뭐부터 더한테 쓰나마 또 르네 로만 저 롭다운 되게 요만 나랑 그 소파 논던 소 힘던데 되게 파대결 때 소리 날 때 롭다운은 도전저 르네 롭다운 되게 소만.
So never. At that time there were no Chinese, and our village was very isolated, and there were no schools, and if one really wanted to study, one had to go to the monasteries. Other than that, there were no schools.
At that time, did you ever think of going to the monastery?
And to su di kableya gyala gombala peya gi samluyona?
Grandpa 야지 차절인데 로저 주니서 쪽선서 때는 저터나 고발은도 삼니까 세요 마크 양 초고발은 도 그들이 당연히 보마도 요즘 말에 초 고발은 되는 거랑 그 말랑 가서 지라간다시 조절이 되었어요. 말랑 고발은 더 하시 것인데 던더 카카라 생각들을 드리는 드니 발라 자마크 드니 초바자 랑
So when I was about 12 or 13, I thought about joining the monastery, and my mother also said, you should join the monastery, and I will be able to survive on my own. So, as we were, sort of discussing these, it was the time when the Chinese arrived, and then I couldn't do it.
I see. You mentioned that your parents were separated. Did you ever have any contact with your father again after he left your mother?
Gyalagi tangi sungye la pala amla khaga shugduala. Ane pala khaga phe chadugane gyala pala la dewa chungi yo na?
Pala ke ngana la lo ngal khurani khakari di ngana la de dawa sungji samsari samari. Teni ngarala loti ye ngasari to palaka ke da chu yatsa de ngasar za shos nga ke bosi chu dasal yo teni nga ke chu choa de kang nga ke ro ba jas moran ke son do jiri chu nge ro ba jas de kran ke las teni kran ke ngarala jocha yang ma nyam ka ke de las ni ngaran ka da pa ka da pa kran nga cho pa ro ta nga ke pa yin do san ne san ba la to shas teni palani teni jamak tropa ja teni koran Jamala Tupa, Mosatani Yara Sentola, Jamala Molover, Maram, El Molover, the tea, caught in Manan, so Tinimanani Padrapi, the new Lord Donsala, the Jarapi by Lord Dontan, Magachi, what the dinner song, the new Tobaja, the caught in his season. The new Marani Toman.
So my parents separated when I was about 3 to 4 months old, and when I grew older, like to about 4 to 5 years old, my father told me that I should come to him, and that then later he would put me in the monastery, and that he would help with my survival at the monastery. And so during that time the Chinese arrived, and then our region resisted the Chinese, and my father was one of the resistants. And then he the resistance group, they went towards Lhozong in Charapempa, and he was killed there.
Shouldn't name anything. It's okay. It's okay. What's the number? Okay. Okay. And he was killed there. And then did you know he was killed, or how did you find out?
Gelagi pala pigelia seba kandise kodu chunguna.
Marani po meso machama pa Jamala European, such a pa Domba Juna Rapi Sudi, Maran Mania, Pan Naxa, Zasel Relans, Koto to do parts hostel, Nanjoko, Mark called Maran La. Tini Tani law some salad, Meso Tama, Matama, Jamal Molon, Parapis. Tini Ta Churang Pagi. Duro the Jamaka Chidas. Choranga Pagi, Jamaka says on this corner, Lakudas, Magihim and Labs.
So in our region, when everybody resisted the Chinese, we'd all left for the hills. And my mother and I too had left the village, and my mother later heard that my father had been killed, and she was the one who told me about it. And we were about 3 years in the hills.
So you would have, when you found out about it, you were about 11 or 12, is that about right?
Tuzu di kabla kodugane gyala konglo chukchi chungi digasrela.
Habe Jamala Tupa repeated Lord Chukchi. Tini Lord Chukchi, Chukchi Lomo, Juji Lomo, Chukson Lomo Pata, Jalan, Tara Swal, Tamambo, some Tarab, Jamaka to do some Mendakon, Carmen, Tin, and to do rapid, Yardo, Zango, to do Papa Junction Chicken, such as to do rapid. Tini Lord Chukson said, Tinima Sanetol, Matama, Choro Jamaka. The new man go to talk to this city. The new Marani Potanaso.
Kabbalah.
The Jamaka Maman go to Sona, Jamaka Chip, Zongden, Rangolis for Zongden.
And Mimangi, the Nyamjezu.
Nyandra Kansoksala.
I was about 11 years old at that time, and then from 11 to 13, we were hiding up in the hills, and then there were the Chinese with the guns chasing us, and then we would be running from here to there, and then later many of the people were caught, and then were taken back to the village to join the commune system.
When you were hiding in the hills with the other people, how were you surviving? How were you eating? How were you sleeping if you were always running from the Chinese?
The Rigala Yobe Kablayata, Jamiki, Tayunguyori, and Patsu Trudigiorwa.
Jamaka did even Yancing in Mendakon, John Motot, and Rapid to this Kativis and Mugek, Chiama, Savitary, lost some sort of Rapian, Rangoso, to this. The new more that this dog band more that sound that the sushi,
So day and night, we were, hiding and running here and there, and everyone was almost on the verge of starvation, and we survived on greens that were not poisonous or grass or whatever we could find.
And when you said you were hiding, what were you hoping to accomplish? To like hide forever from the Chinese, or what was the purpose? Hoping they would never find you in the hills?
Ta rigalaya to any dine yip gamizane yip chini shudi yorwa changma ta chik sembenal kharisam ta khaju pado yip gure ta di khatu chargire dinde khandita wuji sembenala mimang chame gi tengyu na di kablaya
ngara pogo chori ta jamaka sungdole zodi chi sungdo hokoda sanja de menda de pemeke de ko di ta na sungdole sanne satili dili koram mache bo tamche kalan ro china ngara ti jira jo to lesendo dili che pache ko so gego tamche ke ndi jaga ke japsa yole ti so ma ma zo yore chojo gando ko ma yore jama la khaya go na kale da jama ke lo tung tong da tung tong nani mo so rawang thang jori da tin dili ma geshu tamche tin khapdan da lamdo dili jaga ke ro pa ja ko le jaga ke menda te ko le jaga ke ta ro pa ja le ta chata di mari ta ko so dawa kashin nani go ni do jiri dili mo so rawang thang jori tin da zone ko so ma che che ta de tin da lamdo marang ke tin da ja chi bo che shimdo.
I was very young at that time, and when I heard the sound of gun, I was very afraid, and that I would be killed by the Chinese. And as I was a child, and I was just following the adults about, and the adults used to tell us that there's India which is going to help us with guns, and they will fight the Chinese, and then there was the Tibetan volunteer army, the Chushigangduk, and that they would, overcome the Chinese, and within a few months we'll be free and we'll be able to go back.
I see. So it was a time to just hold on until help came.
So today gane tha yagela rigale yip deya dirwa tuju tinduji ta ropa male bado and ropa le chana ngaju ma ro chogris thengi yorwa
ti so mama ko ngola da jama pangoli ne ngo so rawang lo ten ngo so yokan ngo so do choli ring da zondo ti ngana pa jo ta ka she ti so mama tsam da ka she che ga do ma tu ba ja de si ka she ni jaga ka ma phang de si jaga ka go che de si jaga ka men da te de si no da te na te ko na te ko da zo tri da do rambi da da
So some people said, that India would supply guns and that they were fighting somewhere. And some people used to say that, the Chushigangduk was fighting the Chinese. And I wondered, when will they come to us?
Yeah. So you lived there 3 years with about how many people were in this group that kept running and hiding from the Chinese?
Tanda gyala namba zu losum tanda rigala dindes ta chö yip chini shurwa dinale ya mi manglu yorela
ma musu payu ko sacha chama lala rasal de dinani koso zone topte de zone suna so topte de se lamo de se hal de hal de se train de wona dena de gon de wona ndo de gon de wona dena sanin de wona ndo de sacha de jen de ndo
mi ka zesere
ma jonga ni ke sa ponjeri ka cho ndo de wa ma di jonga sa ni ke sa pon nyong di ni sune sa de ndo
So our whole village was there, except those who the Chinese were able to arrest or imprison. And, there were different groups of people. Some groups had 15 to 20 people, and then even there were groups like 2 to 3 people.
And so, if for what did people do with their animals? Because many people also, like your mother, had animals. Did they bring the animals with them or leave them behind?
Nami mangol ta semjen da korwa semjen yorwa la and semjen tunzu ma ta chongsebla yu sha yore nyamdo rigala ti de yuna
gawe so de semji de ya la jakka kar de so Tuni tani jamaka che cho ni cho son cho. Tuni menda kondu kandi tuni sentin tala misha parapi sentin kora so ko marko jaka kora so ko marko. Tuni matin dinani ko ko ma sengchete te ko ko zongchi. Tuni rapi kumendan pena se so se. Tuni maso che tuni rapi tuni wagele. Sama cho so jamaka.
Some people drove the yaks, loaded with their provisions, and then, when the Chinese pursued us and we started running helter-skelter, the yaks also, ran in different directions, and then they were caught and taken away by the Chinese. And the Chinese, they fired on the hills, and many were killed, and many were also arrested.
And the people were killed.
People were killed. Yes.
And so, what did you do for spiritual guidance or comfort during these times? Because you were away from the monasteries. So, was there any spiritual support?
아니 디디가네 타 곰바 타자네 베 타른 부르와 엔 소수 셈베 날타 타직 당아주 최디 칸데다 버시치니 지야라기 요르 타야니야 토가라 리간라 유디가네
곰바 타하탄게 참아르피스
곰바 타바게 요르베
곰바 타하다게 레피스 곰바 똥바르 게 자메 곰바나 자메 코라 마마탄게 데라 곰바나 마마 데 마가데.
The monks were also up in the hills with us, while the monasteries were empty, and then they were occupied by the Chinese army.
Was there, in this crowd of scattered people, anybody in particular, you don't have to give a name, but anybody in particular that was guiding the group?
Ta ridi ganlaya ta mi mangbo yorwala ta gyala gi mingda sungu mari rwa inege mi chik ta chik changmalaya ta chik khala ta do chingye jabuji mi chik yorwe ta changmala ta do chingye ji gora ta chik pembu jabuji dinde su yorwe ming matena
dinde pembu dali ma cheshu da te chama jisang ro topse jisa lochul diba ta da te zongjo yu yang de ten gide yu mo tsote ma shakyu takite lo zongo ni ma ya jagal to jamal tukon yar la jagal don tan jagal no maran jamal tukon kanise tina kanisu hias teni mo so da ten ne pa chimbo me pa teni ten tamchi de ten la teni mo so ya ten ma ma chotse on che tung song job si ni da ting so ma ma so song job si ni jaga ko ngotolo japsa si teni da zo ngotolo pa ru san do ko jamela ni matar so rayon do ko do mo pe pa to sa cha ni dan do teni jama ma yang ka ri di yang on da ri na roman do ko teni ngo da che ga to sa teni ngo da ri na de ji sa pa be jong shin ki to sa tra la jama ko ha ve to po se la ma be jong shin ki la de to da lo ma so da teni da che teni tinani ta
Pembo drawo gyala kyunzu pazu tiro chinge dinde yorwa kyunzu rigala shude yorwa changma mikyuma drawo chik pembo drawo chigi ta thari nganzu dichigu sanye nganzu dichigu lange dinde midinde yorwa mi chik
yoma da ngaran chote momente ko pembo senketini kuma meliri ngaran topo da peisha ta da nyemdende da tamchi pa kanto tama de zama tamchi kanto biti mama ke yarkar markar bota pomo pen tamchi kanto Zamatan che pato canto to rina de pa rarang che ka ju rada donina rada de paris kem zama jom go kem mi libiti.
So the leader of our village, he was able to flee away into India, and those people who were up in the hills with us were just the common people, and all of us were waiting for the day when help would arrive in the form of India or the Chushigangduk, and then in this melee, when the Chinese started shooting and we ran about, husbands and wives got separated, families were separated, brothers and sisters were separated, relatives were separated, so it was like we were wild animals up there.
wide of an area, or large of an area, were you running from and how did the Chinese come after you? So like, were you on foot and they were on foot, or were they, in airplanes, or how were they coming after you?
Gala number 2 rigala pa to yip any trepe de yorwa. Ta changma komba gyan tugu yorwa. Ta gyami dunzu te yung dugane konzu komba gyabido konzu namne mai bab yongso kande chini ligido gyami dunzu.
Yana papa ni koto bo litila koto sacha desani jelende ko ta marere ke tarere mugo ja josa pala ta ni resa ni dine tindisene ko so yaro teni rugon tosa ya za ta atrat tsati ti ko so menda kon no teni kamba jani teni ya ka marka tindise
saja gya cheluredi
sacha ja rugo za ti bon de zawal ya rabino ya zawa ti ko so teni de ko da chen jelo de ko wor chen disune
So in the plains, the Chinese rode horses, and in the Rocky Mountains, the place where we were hiding was a rocky mountain. They would come walking, carrying their guns along, and then we would be hiding here or hiding there, and they came, searching for us, and then when they didn't find us, they returned.
남들 남칸이 이마 subjects 아동선 찬이 레렘 포럼 대리 남칸이 만다를 때때 막 코서도 mon통으로 무슨들이 감도도 남칸 다를 때 잡히면 대리 서소니 마데 남들 남칸이 성탈이 야마스레냐니 마데더니 동어를 샤
So between 3 to 4, 5 to 6 days, planes would fly overhead. But since I think they couldn't see us hiding below, there were no bombs dropped on us. But however, after a few days, these troops would come along.
And the amount of territory that you could hide or run in, how big was it?
Sajak tanda gyala number so ta yip chö chisa jiorwa di bet ya chelu da jiore the yipsa dan chösa di
sacha chösa da sacha dani ngo zo payu sacha rongo sacha ja chimbo zang tongpo za ja chimbo de deni ma ja na pa pyo jong xin chi ke Lhasa kawo ke sacha la pa rabi Lhasa kawo ke sacha la deni pa chen lo tsu sa de Lhasa pyo jong xin chi kawo la
So the place was very, large, and there were high rocky mountains, and then our place, territory was on the border of the Hasakaba territory.
Was it high enough that there was snow? Because you were there 3 years, so you were there several winters.
Ta gyala number so yige ridiganlia ta lo sum shudu gane ta gunga gun sum shu charwa didu gane yege la khang yorwel
ngane phalo di gungari tini disolo yakati disolo gungati phalo so rugo tosa la gangti chang de de yo mar kawa bauna kawa chari kawa bauna gungor ka disa jalmeto gangti cha gangning ba de lo yosu sa cha yo ma tini retene zob de dali la tangche boten sa cha zapo radung la tarung boten da longa cha changye chungye changye yo retene da sini la longa changye chungye tangche boten da tache che bo to che bo cha sa cha de yo ma
Yes.
Moda lang kan de la chi yo ma.
So there was no ice on the mountain tops except when it snowed. So and we were there during the winter and another summer, then the next winter, and then we moved to another place. And in our region there were no very vast plains, but you could, the plains were dotted with very high mountains.
Okay. And so when does this long 3-year stay in the mountains, how does it come to an end?
Ta reading ya ta reading zu ya number 2 gala losum ji paju chuju yipcheni shurwa and the khatu any charson khandis tidu chartu khandi chere
tini losum ke jima ke gungonde la tini mama ke muso zombie
Yamima
chimo niede di kuso kundir ju kora diam tini memda tini sen mabo tang tini go tojo sen tini go ta ma jong su go ta ngone muso sen tini ke jam problema ke jam de tini tini muso go ta tini cho sane tola chiso
chongsip lamati
toso mati.
So 3 years later, while we were sleeping at night, we had been surrounded by the soldiers, and then they, announced that we should either surrender or be killed. And then we surrendered and were taken back to the village.
What was the reaction of the people when the soldiers surrounded them?
Ta shoge ya langdu gane gemi chogi takor charwa en dikavliya an mimang cho kharit sembena kharit thenyuna
ta na shopa chuchu tata ina chuchu ya sakor tuni memdat mabotanso tuni ke maje da ta tuni se tuni ramabi sina buka tunda ke jam ramabi goto sho rapina su jole su ne ramabi goto sho muso se
rima pisna tremando
drumando 총 goto sho da muso se ne tuni problem ke jas tuni mo 총 gotani dan gotani je tuni tuni.
It was around 4 a.m. when we heard the sound of gunfire and somebody started shouting in Tibetan, "Don't run, surrender and we will not kill you." And so we surrendered.
Were people frightened or unhappy or angry? What kind of feelings did they have about having to be finally captured after so much effort to stay free?
Ta losum ji su ta enia ridini ya la yipni der wala gemi ma sung ya gi tendala ta dinde chidu gane gemi gi ta sunga yundu gane mimang changma jiksemba kyo doe she duwe khonro sa duwe ta sembe nang ta khari raji chungso ya khande raji chungso ya gya dikapla
dedi minge tela dedi pokema mo janjang
kabalo
mo ta po janjang po chama lala zon lala se so mo ajanda da pogonda matomi teni aja tamchi mu pogo tamchi mu teni mama tamchi chama mu to de nyesha zong 이게 nyesha teni chito mango tam muso se teni chitu da trata memda te kana yuna tsiporos chiso ke duro choga kana yuna tsiporos chiso choga ta trata memda ta pamjorte kana yuna tsiporos chiso ngomo go muso 된다선데 눈이 초가 야마가 좀치 차 되니 몇 초가 세차 그 초가 좀차 된 초가 메시 되니 된 참아 무티를 세 되니 그 초가 파트 되는 도스는 되니 파라열 치
So in the on that hill there were only women and children and then everyone started crying and then the Chinese said, you don't have to cry, we will not kill you. You should surrender the guns and the swords and then tell us where your husbands are. And the women, some women said, my husband has already been arrested, and some said my husband's already been killed.
And what did your mother say, and what did you do?
Ani gyalagi amagi ani amala karisungso ani di kablaya gyamigi ta kya sajan kawayu timenda kawayu slabrawal en gyalagi amalagi karisungso
kina nga amake ngara tambois tremendami ngara chogami tipoganda ngara nimachami tini choga tsepe jumi tremenda tsepe jumi tini sendo.
So my mother told the Chinese, I am a poor woman and this is my child. I have no weapons, I have no husband.
Gela, did all of the men, when the Chinese attacked that morning, were there no men in the group at that point? Or did they run away at that time?
디 쇼깅아부데 게밀레두 가네르와 켜가 던져 드드 드드레 야 딩년에 켜가 던져 된낭라 요 말에
초가 딩면서 뭐요 초가 던져 다 종이 종 셀리세 드니 잡벨이 파리다 로종 빼방고라 야 person 드리스 다 보고다 아자 던져 갱고다 던져 독재 말라데
all the men had either been killed, arrested, or had gone to join the resistance.
자메르레 보디 트린다 디서 콜인도 감도는 쿠소미니 향도 mendachen jamche sulu che nisu ya rapitendo choga tanje to do che ni mache meli che se ni se songli song se tenu passes.
All the men had either been killed, arrested, or they had gone to join the resistance force at another place. And there were a lot of encounters that took place earlier, and the men had been fighting, and one by one they'd been killed.
So the group started out with men. It's just that in defending the group, many were killed.
당보야 리가라 두두간에 켜가다 김에 창만냠도 여버체.
참아 차라야 논달이 던데 딱한데 야라키는 노티는 참아라 차서.
Yes, initially the men and women together went up the hill, driving the yaks with little provisions loaded on them.
So the final group of people, can you estimate when the Chinese brought this group down about how many women and children were in the group and any men that you remember?
개밀레니 김에다 보고 창마마다 kiranzu gota sho se mayons lan ma ti dorwa longbala di kableya kyala kime pugo khachu study kha kyala gi du standa chöju cheba ina 장가 khachu ju yosare
nge tela sumcho sa
켜가 뇌 찌게
디나는 초가 찍는다 보더라 게바 로 게바 진짜 로 적교사지 던쳤었지 보 있었는데
there were about 30 women and children, and then I saw 2 or 3 old men, aged about 70.
Paula, do you remember what your feelings were? You were about 12 at the time when the Chinese captured you and took you down back to the village.
디두간에다 게라로 중이 적섬 들어와라 게미 심리마티 두두간에
농어 쪽선서 로실로 쪽선에 농어 쪽선사리
디갑라 게라 탄다 챙게도에 디갑라 게라 카리르지 셈베날 텐스웨
다 자모도 책 독보 안셔다 자모도 소도 하고다 다 zon도 하고다 책 독보 위고다 상 마치보 드리존 드리실라면서 다 스드 맨다 페인데 다 맨다 다자는 소도를 줄렌도 드는다 마도 드니 체비도 총도비도 드니 약보도 독보도 총도비도 자모도 마회때 추도용도 지금 말이죠 말인데 지금 제다 마회때 지금 제다 그랬었는데 드니 말이죠 말이 맞다리 깨트고 말이 되는데 책도 파마 유럽아도 들죠 드니 자모 파 코초고 나서 zon으로 파 찰서도 드니 만다다 마도 마회때 가ጆ지 지금 뭐는한다 머리exam다 뭐는한다 책던다 이다 책난다 산다.
So now I thought now we have been captured by the Chinese, and I'll be shot dead by them. And when I looked at them, to me they didn't seem when I looked at them they were men, they were human, but to me they were like like demons.
I realized that if you had been staying in the mountains for almost 3 years, avoiding the Chinese, you were not living in houses, and you had to be careful about cooking smoke, because that would be seen by the Chinese. How did you survive without shelter for 3 years, and how did you manage to cook food?
ता गेला नंबर 2 रिकाना था लोसुम जुशुद वाला दी कबला ता खांगबानी यो मारवा अनि एचिक ता desa dabji ke yo marwa ta ine khala ni ta metang ne su gu yorwa ni khande dabji ni shure khala ta suya metang na ni ta thuwa thungirwa ni khande nangre
다 니레 몇 달에 또 니레 몇 달에 또는 다 저통자 된다 그샵 저 드니 된다 행동 첨부 된다 라라마 법들 된다 된다 원다 된다 드니 생 깜포 감장 된다 그 드니 야메 또 쳐놓고 드니 자판달이 용만달이 드니 된다한달이 파 가라니 사저 거제기는데 드니 조만들 뭐를 야군들 뭐를 생각한 거는 된다 또 된다 뭐가 살로와 된다 맞아 체만다 마모나 된다 어디 야르게 체 된다 요 다소 요만 쓰죠 드니 뭐가 살로를 제대로 뭐다 또서 요리 된다한다 가라는 로 파서 더 들어서 드니 니모들이 파나 있나 된다 샤브지 된다 쿠지 파나 니모들이 파니도 드니 제모성도 제모 다다나 대도 추초대 지요마 다다나 파치 추초 쩌레사 쭉정서 대사 고니 야메 동도 메 파젠타도 메랭도 저는 메 파두도 샤브지인다라 요 추체 요래서 통은 요래 못해 도래서는 라지 말이 드니 자마 양때 그 빠빠니 코소 파시안도지 코소 빠빠니 코소 파시안도 드니 양 다레사라 코소 옹자마리 드니 코소 다레사메 오지 드니 파서 예
다리라나
양 빠빠니 자마 코소 파시안도지 루마 파파
알레 양 다와 찍스 용구 말이
용카 말이 시안도지 코소 드니 코소 양 때체 자마 어다 존을 깨다 뜨셔 데 빠는도 따판도 용도는 여지 보라더니 된다 시만들이 다 로토도 저 제들 자 친구 다다도 사마잡니 보이지만 되게다 long 되니 되게다 사 되니
So we only made fire once a day, and that was at around 10 to 11 at night. And these fire used to be made in caves or under heavy branches of trees, and then we used very dry wood, and we looked for sweet potatoes, greens, and any edible plants that we could find. And during the daytime we slept in the caves, cooked at night, and then sometimes the Chinese they pursued us, but then they went away, and then once they went they wouldn't come for like a month or so, and during that time we went down to wherever the villages were, and then we got tsampa and begged for tsampa and little bit of beans or turnip, and we brought them up and then boiled them and ate.
And why wouldn't you stay in the villages then that you were going down to get food from?
다단다 정셉 된데리야 칼라 롱가 두고요와 데라 데샤나 가르치기래.
나 도지점아이 그서 자크 도난 것도 맞다다 여비 된다 여비 저 잠그 여비 따지면서 매일 여비 따는 여비 옹기 뭐죠. 여비를 또때 뭐죠. 여비를 카타 뭐죠. 드니 여비 된다 간다나 추토가 가서 랍쇼 간다 데다나 랍쇼다 저도 저체 보지 드니 여비라 또때 여비 카타 여기라 사대컬 대지나 뒤쪽도 기사자티 맞대 드니 고소 중적시 드니 제 참로토 되게 세대도 고소 콜롱자치 보여야죠 드니 벼렉도 됐다 드니 고소 벼렉이 고소 벼렉인데 드니 되게 드니 고소는 hinge 또서지 그 자마 밀리트는 고소도 저쪽 그 드니 고소 살은 드나라 도공 도마연 송 저쪽반도 또서도서 인정을 yin 니 디세 다 다만달리 요만다 디세 차진 좀 송송 조가서 저쪽 자마 그런 정도 저 저쪽 자마 그런 송도 저 뭐초라 자마 그 제바죠 저 그 잡지하는 뭐초 조가 당시 정도 저 요마요 도 드니시.
So we were, called Yopin by the Chinese, and then all the villagers around had been instructed never to speak to Yopin or to provide us with food. So, since the people also were Tibetans like us and they had compassion, they would in the night give us tsampa or a few turnips, and then they would say, go away fast, otherwise you'll be captured, and together with you we'll face problem and our men might also get captured.
Right. Does the word yopin mean that you were shunned, unable to be acceptable by other people?
Yopin sanakarata mi shembagi yopin mi chiklaya ta keje shema choya ta dewa chima choya. Yopin sanakarina.
Ropa.
And yopin sunguda gyala namba kyonzula yopin lagi res.
Yuri.
La.
Yuri.
Yurwik.
Yuri. Yorpin rapin roba. Yuri ta jamaka yuri.
So, I see. So it's not Yopin, sorry. It's called Yurwik. Yur is village. Wik is someone who has left the village. So Yurwiks were people who opposed the Chinese and left their village and ran away.
So they said, you are Yurik, and so do not give any food to these people.
Exactly.
Do not shelter them, right?
Exactly.
And so the people would know that that's who you were.
Right.
Thank you. So we left off your story when the village gets captured and they're in the mountains. Was that about 1960? From your recollections, what year was that happened to the village?
Gala number 2 ta anda rikala shude gane ta gyami yongni simswa simne ma chongsep la tiswa dikap de chikdong go gyo thukju sirwe gala this tensu yona lodi
무슨 사장이 직동 거자 던처 던처나 자처 직동 거자 맞죠 맞대로서는 맞전 보면그 맞전 맞제로서는 잠을 파투바자 되니 맞제론 적산 되니 뭐 잠을 그 옆에 잠을 가야만 옆에서 되니 저 적절로서는 되니 무슨 저 동서를 치서
It was in 1957 when the Chinese and the Tibetans, clashes took place. So in 58 we were up in the hills. So it was 61.
That's 61. Okay, and so can please explain what happens when the Chinese bring you down from the mountain? What happens to all the people that they have captured?
다 미던주 참마 심니 다 김에 부구다 겐고니 숨주도 와라 마 총셉나 티레와 겸이게 엔디 마 티레니 애니 가르치했으라
드니 조선나니 코조 물마 정성 세단체 마마 고래 쪽너라 칼라 년들레너라 동바 참마 샤마 마마마보 저 동바 쟁너 도체쟁세는 강바 쟁든데 강반드나나 던던던던던던나 대 다장가던데 소매서 예래서 던데 야나 두르베다 이모서 던데 강바 던데 탑자 다 롱을 뭐 초래서 카와 땅이 바우는 탑자 초래서 데니 롱 비는 뭐 초래서 던데 강반나나 더 파서 야서 예래 소매다 예래 껴래서 들으서 같이 정거는 야서 드니 또 탑자를 되니래 돼서
So when we were brought back to the village, everybody had to join the commune, and 3 to 4 families were made to live together in one room, and we got a shelter, a sort of a shelter, which was so poor that wind and snow could come into the house, and we were provided food just twice a day.
How these were the village that you came from, is that correct? Yes. So there were many levels of accommodations in that village, many people with different amounts of money. So how were the houses assigned to people? Who got the nice houses? And somebody like you and your mother, you got a shelter that the wind and snow came in.
Anda di chongsep gyala number 2 ma ti yongsa jiorwa di nyama gyala kyunzu chongsep dirwela
말이티 인다 사자 인다 요가 기빠님 봤어 동초 디동초 아 멤버 동초 나티 동초는 대장 예래 날에 두래 되면서 요마 되니 사자 인다를 파처마로 로를 뭐 숨자 입자서 로고 동초 마모 초로 로고 디데wen
강바 야가 donzu sulate
강바 다니 떠나 강바 야보 던져 빼면서 요라마 또 하마 그 로빠리 숨지 되니 강바 닥제 단체 고조 자마게 레차 레지바 단체 되니 마음도 Teni goti mama kore kan goti pome ko yala yal di. Da teni hima tan tensani hima tan je yakte da da jisa do losa da. Teni mo so jimala ti kamba ya poma da. Teni medok te teni man do gimen do sa chala ma cho kana do sina kana do go de. Kamba mi na pa tang na ni da go na ni go de. Teni
So that was not exactly the village where we lived earlier. In our region, there were clusters of village all around with 6 to 7 families each. Now everybody had to live together in one area. And the good houses, there were not many good houses because it was a nomadic place. And the better houses were being used by the Chinese officials and then the army and also the commune leaders. And the other houses were assigned to the people, and since we were one of the last arrivals, we got the worst shelter.
Okay. And so, please tell us how your life progresses. What happens next in your story?
Majisa letupsa tasanche la teni gemo pa tondro nyong ke ma se chamado yama ke hiene su teni pa tondro tanche shate risu teni tondro ke mama ropa deji ke teni tawanda tanda de pa shinkala lo 이 신카한테 로또 발은 마다 파티야지 신카를 짜지는 빵을 줘서는 되게 잠그 까레 까레 때는 드니지사 아자 탕지 고톱전다 드려라 대 까레 고치 드는 뭐저 탕지 로다는 야 로다 있으면 로다라 드니 드다 타바크선 드는데 말레레 때 드는 로바 같이 로바 대지 그 타바점 되게 커는 드니 로는 뭐저 로다라 로 teni kozo te da shinkala de papang jo zaji su majo pe su tamle teni de la kale ke ko de de le na de de teni gango nyima je ma ja pa de nyima je ma ja pa de le kale ko
tinde na kharulu ri so ye bela to dong ye bu
lo do to bo de tarwa ropa de ji la no ke tang ye le je wa nimba nga che da tenda ma to sa pa ji ma ri wa ta no mi li su 노르탄치 파쇼로스 마음을 수 들고 맞자빠 뭐에 시키면 되게 깜짝깜짝 놀수수 세선 하라 아니 셴다 되게 냅고나 되니 먹게 ቆ는 델레마도 되니 야를 들다 하라마 밀리지스나 이 되지 되게 다 타와 신나는 로고지를 되니 타와한다 들다 그래서 되니 되니 자마크다 제가 꼬알아 레전드 저발을 끼는 레전드 마도 되요 마데 들다다 되니 파 만조 답이야니라 마조 라선다 초점 토도니라 되게다 이쪽에 잭대 디나 코스
디나 카리쿠레
티 타와 리
신가나 루루야 So all the able-bodied people were made to work in the fields. Since the fields had not been cultivated for several years, it had turned into pasture land. So people were made to dig the earth, using spades. And then, in certain places where the nomads used to live, there were manures lying around. So people were also made to transport manure from there into the fields. And then I was made to attend a school.
And what was the school like?
Again, la lapta jila tangrwa, lapta di khandeshto.
Lodal tangsa, lodal mala tanda tsabala so noga tsabala lejali tanda jinde tanda chekte tanda likrumiti.
Lapta chingyo mare.
Lodal yiga tsoma mate yoma, leka lekore. Lodal bogo tamche lodal yinjore, lodal meitale mitse yiga kan duma chek tsoma ma. Leka leko, tsama ke leka leko.
It was a school in name because nothing was taught there. In fact, we were made to work in the fields, transporting manure in little yak hair bags made out of yak hair.
And what was happening to your mother?
Gala ge amala ti kawaya.
Amala yang kotsoti ke tenda kale ja ke jorsi kale de tenda ten deni sa ko go hinka.
My mother's group were provided with spades to dig the earth for cultivation.
And what was the food situation like?
Ani di kabla ani shala dun su ta khandere do.
다 니레 소레 때라 둑도 다 뭐게 끝나샤 사다다다데 잠바이나 잠바 캠벨은 근데 캠벨은 지는 마도 드디스는 포바는 대비 요마 근데 용만도 된대이나 되나는 동동 좀 더가는 상품이지 그 추치 추치몬도 된다 데가 디치네서 가서 통교지 근데 뒤에서 하지.
So the food we got was sometimes twice and sometimes thrice a day, but we were just short of starvation. And the tsampa, was not measured in cupfuls, but they were measured in spoonful. And then we were also given tiny quantities of powdered dry turnip and a glass of hot water.
And what effect did this have on the people?
And it had mimang chola khande chaso di kableya.
Ni mama 저 탐체더니 좀 로보다 점보야 삼보야 상 될 저도도 사상은 원다 저도서.
장래.
장을 드니 내 장을 봐. 로치. 드니 니레마 저래 내셔 소매 예레 나리 셔러들. 니 셔쳐 터리 니 셔러 참. 니 사점 내가 야채 볼래. 니 세모양 예저지 좀 말이. 초도 다 라마 뿌보탕께 도보리 되니 되게 그 도보리 저는 계좌들 어버시 거지 되게도 되게 초도 되게 이 봐. 내가 뭐게라 되게 그때는 고바 들바탕께 적 되니 상보야 되니 셔서 이거 저 보고 총총 탐지야 돼 근데 플란체가 와비 문이 쟁빈 저는我们 디바 디토에 니르왕 我们 니르왔다 我们 니르왕 거 소통 통이지 게다다 자말라 마가파 깨자리나 먹어서니 자말라 띠니 요자 뭐 딘자네
So people's bodies became swollen, they became weak, and daily 3 to 4 or 10 to 20 people died because there was hardly anything to eat and there was hard labor, and in the nights you couldn't sleep because you had to go attend meetings, and in the meetings you had to say that the monks and the leaders were bad people. And then I'm not lying, I'm telling the truth. I have seen hell, and I'm not speaking just to speak against the Chinese, but I'm speaking the truth.
Can you describe a little more what happened in the meetings and how long were they?
다 건다 체모라 촌도를 패고도 아게나
촌도 거거든
체모 촌도 논주값이야 가리가리 중고도 촌도 규링리 소래
추추 따따따 차 요들이 파체 추추 세선사 이래서 좋겠어 될었다 그쪽 당보 잠을게 되니 도 벌바는 한 거치 야야리게 다 되니 추게 되니 나게 되니 다게 도공 치성게 상공이 이게 되니 라마 도포리 봄보 도포리 소포 속다든지 도포리 되니 저교벨에 장동벨에 되니 야오 똑레 마자로 도포리 다다더니 다 가모 토모더니 고티 땅존 되니 야포리 다 고티 땅존 지파리 다 모토시 존 되니 마테타 되니 야포인데 되니 대존 다 들이듯이
So the meetings took about 2 hours, and during the meetings the Chinese would first speak, and then it was the turn of the Tibetans who had been appointed as leaders, and then in one night he would speak, you would speak, I would speak. Tonight there would be 3 of us who spoke, and tomorrow the other 3 would have to speak. And what you had to speak on was that, how bad the wealthy people were, how bad, the lamas were, and how good the communist Chinese is, and how good Mao Zedong is.
How did the people react to this?
아니 미망 속에 다 딘데 갑래야 아니 가리 태유나.
선박에 다 여보리 메달 참이시네. 카케트도 뭐죠? 파뭐 죽는 초지 말이. 드니 드드 책 조시나 책이 조시나 니 손조시나 손 무슨 초지 말이. 드니 선박에 뭐가 차디 뭐뭐 시시마. 미시로 그시 미시로 네 조시 사면 모토시 야포리 달에 하고슈. 땅 콘테 땅 야포리 달에 까데 치보리 달에 하고슈. 메시 시사마리 라마 푸보 도포리 달에 메 하고슈. 때문에 메시 시사마이도 시 메시도 저 선발은 내 요래서 출산발 내 출산발 먹가는 들이 전에 마도 시 시들이 시 거죠 들으세요.
So deep in their hearts the people thought otherwise, but orally they couldn't say that. So when each one was ordered to speak up, he would say, I cannot speak much. I only know that Mao Zedong is good. I only know that communist China is good. And I know that the leaders and the lamas were bad.
And how long did this go on in this? How long were you in this commune?
아니 딘데 체니타 로카즈스 칭레 디냠레 저드촌에
당마람 마기는 그 같이 로트기 많이 샤비티.
라
마람 마기는 디 너는 로트에서 같이 리만 샤비티. 뭐에 드니 마람은 드니 파 두바에 시드니 루탄보테 야드니 내가 레냐한테 잡하미는데 드니 고조 골로 탐치 마사 드니 드니 파 선장 동장도스 드니 파 차본다 드니 니레 사마토 레레니레 쳇테오나 되게 라디오라 브라timra 다파 드니 다민들이 드니 저지비치드니 샤마리 드니 텐산이 제 말랑 그 요까니 드니 말랑 마케 맹보 penjate de lama gelong ya pa ti tuni te tama rekan so zong ching te rekan to ma ma zong ching tuni te la ke tuni tempo da tuni tempo ja ne tuni jagsal ma la pa ka to me tempo da ja ti ko tempo ja san da te la chi ko lo to sa samai pe ka ya ji ti ko ga la ni re tuni to sa ga ba to sa por ko lo te te sa ga la chok ka li je tuni da se tuni na 타마 모액시야 이말. 보고 마보 시티. 드린 타마 난 드린 돈 니도 난 파츠 니도 하면서 고마폰 드린 돈야면서.
So within 1 year my mother passed away, and then I was also very weak, suffering from dysentery. My clothes were torn, and I begged and ate whatever I could, and I was alone. And then my brother of my mother, he had been captured and brought down by the Chinese, and my uncle, he was good in tailoring. So since he was a tailor, he had better food than me, so he would feed me at times, and that's how I did not die of starvation while many other children died. And at that time, I could not walk. I was rendered to be just crawling about.
And you would have been about 13 years old during that time.
Yes, that's right, about 13.
And how did your mother die?
Starvation, he said.
Oh, you didn't say that.
Okay, sorry.
His mother died of starvation. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So how long did you remain in that situation?
로 텍사라 드리지 드니 로 찌게사 살테데 드니 비사 셴칼랑 돈돈데 레칼레사지 사얀도냐리 드니 짜파 다 로직사리데 판도타기한테 초드록시 저든데 드니 초드록시 드니 니만데 치가트데 수까시 꺼자라마도 사초마 꺼자 드니 디슨 폰라 사데리 Teni tendanda si teni chinkala poro chebo san jongjok tena chebo langdi tege ma cho di tinan toma tedi toma mambo yu teni tege tamsa teni si teni ji san donyang ji jing kompa ja ji san donyang ji.
So after the first year, when I was about 14, then the farmers were able to harvest the first year's grains, and then I used to steal grains, whatever I could find and eat them. And then also in the ground, there are certain mounds in which you could find sweet potatoes. So I would, look for sweet potatoes and eat them, and then I was able to walk a little.
You got your strength back, and then were you still going to this school? Did anything change there?
아니 다 kyala tes da supul shuk tes ke yorwa
kompa di si ja je jing.
ani lapta de la ya ta chik ya yig lab ya da de tes jo da do de lapta ji la tang ya gi chashi da ten tang
loda ni ta ma zo loda yige zo ni to la chi yo ma le ka le nya yu na le bogo tam che la loda tam che la ja dong de ta mo si je ma mo ma na de san ni ne ma tyong yo le ma na de mo ma na sa ja de san sa yo 다 아지한테 된다 로청도 된다 초 나해스네 초 사바나레 마조 초 조고 나라마스 자도 망보스지 나이 초도만 셔도 도혼도 샤샤샤 도고 말니에 산이니 샤도 제나타도 니토샤 단나 초도만 초 사바나레 마조 초 조고 나라마 나무 초마 내가래
No, there was no teaching in the school, it was just work. And at that time we were not even allowed to be sick. So if you were sick, and if someone said he was sick, then the Chinese would say that you are lying, and then they slapped you left and right. And people had to die as they walked along, and sometimes you go to sleep and the next morning you are dead.
So you saw many people die as a young man.
gyala khonglo chunju indi kane mi mangbo shiba si yorwa ta gyala ge
ngarang ma chobushati ma ka mare ma da ngarang kakasese ngarang hoda da da tatile ja ma de bank committee ja so ma shasune sine ngal cho da so ma to ma ka chobushati mare 다 뭐뭐 내가 초 샤는 데 나 아바샤듯이 드레나 아마샤듯이 드레나 아니샤듯이 드레나 아사샤듯이 저 보고탄 저기 좀 파전 남들마도 네 저거 들으시는 저 마보 춘준도 샤티 춘준도 로 춘준도 코티 춘준도 진짜 시대 말이 다들을 내가 낸도 롱바든 가 효롱 가 효롱들 사자 국도를 던들라 근데 로 나리 도레 저래 예셔서 판판이야. 근데 때는 버크는 파 드마트 카도
Galasisu.
Zeg meke rekso. Mama mene te mo mama dinda. Te ko ze ko lo tan che te ko so din de la din taman de bok san kanga la te na te din hambo din de na ko din ke so de ni bo ja so sa te kanga la te hango ko so ko lo tan che de ko so pa pen yo de ko lo tan che pa ju de bo tan che ya sha de bo tan che ya sha de pa 로제 갑자기 방로제 갑자기 방으로 드리베도 파제 사자 파세 저제 또 충도 또 치료마 파 마이 무도산도 또 방요 초체보 요마 무서 사자라 주치에도 제보.
So my mother and I were separated, and we were in different groups. While she was in the group which had to, dig the earth, I was in the school group. So I did not see her die, but I heard that she had died. And then in the children's group, every day a child would say, today my father died, or someone else would say my mother, my aunt, And then with my eyes, I saw in the valleys, 5 to 6, 10 to 20 dead bodies lying around with flies all over, and the stench was terrible. and bodies were just thrown anywhere. There were no cremation ground or no large rivers in my region.
Does the situation ever change, or does it just continue like that for years?
아니 탄 내단 디 탄다다 칼리 교와 조여레 기타 로 망보 지든데 지 데데레겐라.
되니 저쪽 레니로 사파도 사조리더니 레니로 렉손로 레gel로 말이 빠도 다른 뭐에 나데래. 되니 레gel로 저쪽 레gel로 사리차데. 되니 뭐에 이 만나서 잡아지지 사조리서 용마지 사조리서. 되니 때 참아가 때 세칸트 마토니라. 되니 샤마쫑아쫑아라 저 때잖아. 샤마쫑아레 대한 노래 거래자데. 되니 영어만 쫑아레 노래 때 ndo nyongsa yuma nyongsa so rang ten ni rang ke do kan da da zaman da da chinhe ka ni te tong me tong ni ngarang ta jisa za chang shpo la rom ni ma she lin da ni cho ngarang ni pe na ma zo te tang ka ha ni so na ni de de cho nge pe ni cho ro da cho ga ni mi po ga mi te ni ngarang ni cho ni nyam da do de sha la me da tong da se ni mo shi pa da te chi do 로쟁이라 들으셨더니 되니 뭐에 이 메셔서 있어.
So from 1962 to 1964 there was the situation was a little better with small quantities of tsampa to eat, and then in 1964 the commune was closed, and then grains were divided individually. Every 15 days we got a certain little quantity of grain, and then people and relatives, families who had been separated could regroup, and then they formed into families, and then we used to cook individual families separately.
Did you have a family that you could join, and who were they?
타미 망보 소소소 낭미 추라 제니 칼라냠도 소야 고추라 아니 겐라라 수요레 디캅라
마랑치포 대jan 마랑치포 대토르서 되니 샹보테 그 디스디스 차 도서 젠제데 젠테니 마랑 총 마랑 깨ate 되더라 담메가 차 동도 누가 총총 되나 차서 되리 저다 간다 마랑 치포도 마랑 아서 마이크 펜자텐다 아서니요 제쳤어 되니 쟁는 사차 인다를 키서 되니 무슨 독사 카카리비티 되니 마랑 되는 파 체시정답 되냐 되니 사저 요도 메드 냐차도 야보 침시티 자 요도 사체스는 메드 메스는 되니 되다 다 되도 참아왜.
So I was alone, and except for my uncle who was there, and he used to give me food at times, and then I received my own share of grains, and then I used to cook alone in a tiny utensil, and my mother had two sisters, but one of my aunts died and the other was in a different place. So at times I got something to eat, and at times I had nothing to eat.
And how long did you stay in that community?
Gala dinde chineta lo khajis shuimbe.
니 되게 세트리 독저에 제거선이 도저라 툴레서이도 되니 노르 자마크 노르 파운도파 파암도 카소모니 노르 단로 망고트니 소팅 무슨 선 마트니 야르나다 던데 아 샤마라 차롱이 던데 로총 나라 로체서티 로니 십자기마서티 단체 되니 지마서티 되니 아니지 되니 야 보고 총총한테 야차 되니 되니 파 암도라 되니 파리 수고 나서 암도지라 되니 마 다다 로총 단체 야마크 티소나 되니 록당 노르트가 첫째 되니 되게 저 나는자도 되니 로카를 때 되니 되게 초마크 맞잖아 되니 세리 되니 마도서 사절이지 되니 그뭐 샤도서 도서 사절이지 되니 생 되니 마카 예 꼬무거리 되니 야다 들라라 따다 들라 지사 뭐지 지세 레리 초리리 되니 마카 망보 꼬무거리 다른 마샤테 공도거리 달레가 공도거리 그래서 차 드니 뭐에가 실리가 담밀리 드니 내가 파 내야 개념지 드니 자마가 미 도서 저 드는데서디 드니 내 개념지 다 드니 뭐에가 미실레서 고저다 사저다 다른 땅안 자치 치보 요디 봐도 드니
Around 1970, many young men in the age group of 24-5 were taken to Amdo, and when they came back, they were driving yaks and deers, and these were divided and provided to groups of people. So then we could, also get meat to eat. And then cultivation was also not only done by humans, but with the help of animals too. And then there was the crop that was grown was barley.
And at what point do you leave your home situation and become a monk?
Ta dinerwa gela ta khadu any gela di saja di yu ne any chik thaba chini phedere
tini ti saja te tegen dana den jacho chakcheglo mari pa te mama kongre ke nana te mama kongre
mima kongre che ya khala khaga so ya
kaka khalsu tini jodan so shinka chama tmongwe jela ya tini choro gopya jana tini sin tunje chok gopya jana yar jakal mabo yate gojiri tini te chani tmong jela mabo yo gojiri tini nyongso chok gemal teje
ani gela khadu ne di sha ne any thaba chini pha chu phedere saja shema ya
toha gopchoko sonje jingasa khalabdani tahavele
kupchu konga
ko jingasa nasena dojo mata ta no ta lo katan cherek lo ne shayi desunda
ani thaba chin any pha chu pheya go chu be saja
tini nga tahave chachoni din Lhasa lo su je bien no ji jawo ji tini so jagalon do so jagalon din nga sasan thamar sasan din la chi thata ko nga sasan drive jelsin din la chi nga ko ropa thumel la chi mani ro mu jen ko nga mu jen jami tini ge saime ni ge jen thumel nga ko mani ro din to me tatani so so din mara pa kar sa kar to champo ne ko ne ko roto labde ne ko to somde.
So then we continued to be in the commune, and then everybody worked together, but the food was divided and each individual family could eat by themselves. So after the harvest, we had to pay a certain amount to the government, and the rest was divided among the people. And by 1994-5 I became a monk, and then I went to Lhasa. And from there, I wished to go to India, but I had difficulty crossing over the border. And so, I spent my time going on pilgrimage and then living as a hermit.
When you lived as a hermit, what spiritual practices did you do?
Ani gyala ta retreat dinde nala shu derwa gyagal chuma thar du gane retreat nangla ani ti gyala chhe khare nang ne shu be
lo to lo zo satra la hinjo to ha ga be de hinjo jo zo ni hinjo ba je jo zo jo go le hinjo ba je yani
ngondu bum
ba mi je jo je le
bum shi
sa ben de je Jangchuk Nyima lama nam je de je ye jang ben de je men ran ben de je bangwa ya dana teje ni dana groupa chung ji da de la to da hang de la da ka she de.
So at a place called Hodopo, I performed the 100,000, which is called the Ngondo. It consists of doing 100,000 prostrations, 100,000 different things, so altogether it's 500,000, and I just begged my, way along.
And were these full prostrations with the body?
차 강장 책이 왜 디갑래야? Yes, 100,000 full prostrations.
And well, can he name a city, from what city to what city he went? Is that or what distance maybe?
차 체를 와라. 차 사진 찍네 찍라 체네 조고고요래. 다가 사진 찍낭라 체네 데래.
사자 찍낭은 체네 데네. 사자 때도 정보를 파서 사체 더 많이 막아. 나그때 상고도 나그때 대등하라 더 찾기 뭐도 요자면 사죠. 해 말. 또 파 난찍라도 문제적 카드가 들어야.
So the 100,000 prostrations I did at one place because I didn't have anybody to provide me with food if I went prostrating to different places.
Right. And I'm trying to understand, did you join a monastery or not join a monastery, and what was that about?
Gela gomba tazanjila pa zuni shuimbe gomba tazanla ma zubiche ane so do shu dere.
소가라 데에나 다창라 초알라 로파 디아로진 테메랑 초알라 로파 도서 자주더니 마 yen다카말라 로파 도서 자고 당나들이 차프 너반동들이 로파 디암 도서 히에 타마 초알 강가서 말이.
You know, the monasteries and other people helped me, but I lived alone separately.
And why did you choose to do that?
아니 게라 곰바당라 파마 주비체라 아니 곰바다 미자 미망자니 록발레니 게라 카가 가르치니 슈베사 카가 다 곰바당라 파마 주비체라 수수 카가 가르치니 데레사
캄바 곰파네 캄바 야
곰바기 잡아치는 디그마레 파 주니
다하스 주고는 야마근 지지지 말이 곰파 그 곰파는 다하 도요 그속 시대를 말 이게 시대 얘는 나저 꽁는 그쪽 그 야만의 꽁는 들을 야래마도 시시를 들 철마.
No, new monks were not allowed to be taken in that easily by the Chinese. You know, there was a certain fixed number of monks, and you know, even the monasteries sheltered me secretly.
And why did you want to be a monk?
게라 가르치니 잡아 진도 중수에서.
나랑 나 버제요 대 콜로니셔 잡den서 때니 되니 코그 바바치느라 코샤티 되니 콜로니셔 잡den서 버제요 말 버티 그래 말 그것도 초가요 초가도 그래서 지미 맞지 다만 로니셔 자 상가 때니 되니 나 지미라 라 찰데 되니 버제네 이 버드샤 되니 드르지더니 나랑 작한데 제가 요새 처음 강바도 바지밀때 당나 내걸 비도고 나다 그러니 카카스요고 되니 저는 저 처음 출을 저요 이 버셔 차트 당나 자갈 비도고 탐친친 바 장고자 까마바 사자고마 탐친친 바 나 현재 내걸 비도고 되니 드리베도 저 처음 칼 포르마 정말 모란을 파져야 이만 장수 당나 코발았다 비바침다 다 라완테 주대 라완토 내걸 손은 도초스 드리스 세주 다고 이만 장수.
So when I was 25, I had met someone and we'd lived together, and we had a son, and when he was about 27 years old, he died.
27 years old?
Yeah, when he was 27 years old, the son.
Okay.
When my son was 27 years old, he died. And then after he died, you know, I told my wife that I did not want to live as a lay person, that I wanted to, you know, go on a pilgrimage and perhaps go to India and see the holy Karmapa and Sakyapa and other lamas. So I told her, you know, to take and keep everything that we had together. And then leaving her, I came away.
What, we're going to wrap this up now, but what was it that appealed to you about being a monk and following the Buddha Dharma as a monk? Why did that interest you?
아니 갤라기로와 다직 낭바상계기 최치고 사직 셈베나라 텐에 아니 다 잡아치니 용로와 이 낭바상계기 최디 간데지니 가리라 갤라기 다 약부지 초스웨
나 충도 보고 충도 그 로 등제 제거서 고 되니 되고 사자라 군파라 라마요 자화요 되니 대장 탐지 그 라마 자화디 되니 주바시 더다시디 되나 저 센조보다가 렌더리는 채도 가 판단으로 아마존 되니 아마라 당가 렌더리는 로고 조금가 따로지도 되니 아마 그초로 쭉 쪽선사고 되니 저기 쪽에서 쪽선 쪽에서 되니 마도 고반은 로고나 고반을 드코트 좀 말이 이게 너무 해지 말이 이 쪽들은 따로 세시더니 마켓 쪽 따로 세시 이 파가 따로 세시 되니 들으서 되니 톡바 잡더니 두 판죠 되니 많이 라치 담고 쳐리 되니 추고 드라 라치 미리리 들으셨어 되니 저 자체로니 모두 히파시 되니 자니 로사니 되니 저 주대라고 더 되니 많이 도는 동초 마음에 푸는 푸죠 꼬라잖아 자초 자나라와이 마자나라와이 마자나 자고들이 그 냐노시 뭐죠 마자나 잠나 마자마 초도 냐노시 뭐죠 시더라고 되니 강가리 되니 내 걸로 도초 사사지는 도초 빠세진 초시더라고 되니 뭐지 되니 나는 파다 하시죠 땅아 하시죠 당절 코만을 나 되는 피마치모도 되니 나는 파 많이 치만지 되니 라마 타와지서 저리린 거 되니 다 되게 되더니 뭐는 요라면서 되니 라치 줄라메리 되더니 되니 나 타하디죠 당아 찾아 요랑도나 뭐도 당만 참도 산들이 되더니 지면은 다 주로 더지 난 참도 더 쇼도지는 뭐니 참도지 뭔도지면 뭐에 샹도 뭐에 맞어 강간 맞춰서 다 조강간 맞춰 뭐에 맞어 당연히 되는 만도니 저 정말아니 좋다 갖고 봤다 중에 콜모도 저랑도 돼요 되는 만 배는 되는
So when I was very young, say about 7 to 8 years, there used to be monks in the monastery, and when I looked at them, I wished so much to be a monk. And I went and told my mother that I wanted to go and join the monastery, and my mother told me that you cannot join now, and if you do so, you won't be able to abide by the rules of the monastery at this age. So, wait until you are 13 or 14. And both my mother and father had agreed that I could go to the monastery, but by then, the Chinese came and that hadn't been possible, and then and during that time when there was no religious freedom, people couldn't recite the money, and not a word about the Dharma could be spoken, but by 1982, Mao Zedong had died, and there was relaxation, about freedom of religion, and one could go say monastery or go on Kora. And then I told my wife, now is the time, I want to go on a pilgrimage, and if you want, we will go together. But she didn't want to, so I told her, no, then if you don't want to go live with me, then you can keep whatever we have. And then that I wanted to become a monk and wanted to get away from the cycle of life, and that's how I went.
Beautiful. Just one last question. Pat, what is your most precious teaching of the Buddha that you wanted to practice from the Buddha Dharma?
The Sangegi Chöyorwa Gyanla. Sangegi Chöne Gyanla gi Laglen Tarya di Kechishu Kadi Laglen Tarki Yona.
Tata Ari Nyima Kaju Gelo Rarana Lama Raranga Loksort and Seno Koso Tamjanda Mabondo. Naranga Lo Chundini more to kick a Sijukan Zandulitula, 당아 그 중도 디서 맥을 용대도 생이 뛰는 게 공조선 지만요. 카그 모두히 야고리 공태당 야고리 저 무조 초마 제들마도 생 되는 것만 그 장공자와라 까마빠 담지 열리스를 고민을 마도 말하는 잘만요 빠르 줘를 마대도 다 들으실 고민도 그 소감을 되는 쪽만 명들이 나 주대 초리들라 가죽라만 저진이나 가죽라만자 geloklaman jadina geloklaman ja sachallaman jadina sachallaman ja gani sok chu namni nangkadasil kashi kori gani su nangkadasil atnasom wangde kashi ni nangkadasil kon sokan nangkadasil atnasom kashi ko nga chulong dekat nangna tran do dekat nangna nga mdo sir tidol sori da yor na tidol sori tinimi ito tata tahasil tila chepa khimami che khimami ta tawalama to no tongong jawa 얘네는 잠벌은 로켓 센치탐지 그 파마리 다 대아 저체자리 체체비
저로도다.
Okay.
Even during the reign of Mao Zedong, when a religious practice was banned, deep in my heart, I never forgot the Dharma. And in Tibetan Buddhism, there are different sects like Nyingma, Kagyu, Gilo. But for me, I like to practice every sect. There is no discrimination at all.
Thank you very much for this interview. We appreciate your sharing with us, and I appreciate your sharing with us, and we wish you many opportunities to keep practicing the Dharma.
아니 다른 게라게 간줄라 루규 숨버들라 투지체 슈기인사 아니 게라게 남바산 얘기 취치 토야라니 라와 침부격이 여사 단독에
당말 다른 톱 거미에는 그 책 날짜를 그 수능을 저 반절에 책 자신 쳐다는 말 담배 추리 저 초리 그 말을 라와이 되나 말 디가사 디치사 말 추리 줄리 그 롱코를 라와이 막티 때마다 되나 정말 먹었어 톱고서 저 반절 라마다 말 먹고 말씀이 설명도 답하기 이거 추적될 때마다 생각하니 내가 뭐네 드니는 세 딱히 답하고 있으니 드니가 진짜 나티포 상제 톱다니 나티포 대화 톱다니 그런 상황이 나도 딱 진짜 많이 도 실리 남바 상제 봐도 지가 보고 그랬으니 면 좋았을 때 도코면 산 도코리는 진짜 냠냠도 저거들도 많이 치만 된게스 아마도 애 조리도 누가 나나 거다 카 소화도 좋고 나도 다 잡시 돈이 쪽쪽입니다. 나를 책 돌리 많이 찍어줘. 삼들이. 나도 또서 책요. 나도 또서 들었다. 람상 때 이거는 나도 다마 그 때문에 저는 참으로 들어요. 나다다이는 나다다나 계속하는 요로서도 내 장군자 추치 토버다. 장군자와 빠빠 샤베 자거다. 계속하는 추드롭 초리. 고라자 초리 많이 주면 된도죠. 계속 이와라 초다시가 삼아있어. 나 그래봐 되잖아. 너는 계속 그렇게 찾았다. 나 그쪽 난 포아지야. 니사 좀보 그러려 보면 찾기지 못다. 찾기야 못이다. 너는 그쪽 돌아는 몇 달만 좀 보면 칼라 사진에서 막 많이 좀 꼬라지야. 너는 그 진짜 보초디 것이 돌아나 보면 막고 다 돌아리 있으면 상가 좀 가지고 너는 zonte 타다 봐도 보초디가 돌아나 대로 보면 막버리스 미 되게 탐지 다단 가시 주민에서 토대지 잡지지 봤다 다른 데 가시 다 가르치는 시점 아니 미다 되게 그 소스를 됐다 부고도 군다 그런 요소 좀 보고 정도 보고 되니 제 로켓 진짜지 된다 아니 내때 대화를 뒤에서 또 하는 거 그냥 간쪽 제가 내때 퍼센트 소소는 내때 퍼센트 다지 나그 쪽 통소서는 왜 꼬라지는 때고 많이 돈을 때고 상치는 때고 따로 나티 보이지 디션 데모야고 오도 그 순생을 칼라 야고 조요 날 지게 주바이데 좀 뭐가 지게 바고 요마서 그 센티만 나는 마치나 봐도 따로마 저렇다 당말 따로마 간나 또 쳐보 성도 사다 아주 지금 말다 당말 뭐
So I'm someone, you know, who doesn't need title, who doesn't need wealth, and who needs nothing. You know, for me, as long as I get the freedom to practice the Dharma, it's everything for me. I am not practicing the Dharma to attain Buddhahood for myself, but I pray for all sentient beings, you know, and I feel compassion even on seeing a you know, poor person, and I try to even give him the little that I possess. And at the old people's home, you know, I, you know, except for the time when I spend on eating, most of the time I recite my mantras, go on prayers, and pray for those many who died for the cause of Tibet, some of whom might have attained their next life, but some might not have, you know. So I pray for all of them.
Beautiful. And again, please pray for us.
nganzu thanda lemelam kyen ro chi sa